It's, well, a dangerous road when you want to talk about people who are grieving. And there's no doubt that the family of late Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick are grieving. They are. I think to say otherwise is, well, irresponsible and gross. Of course they're grieving. Their son is dead, brother is dead. But you know Officer Sicknick because of January 6th, because he was there that day, the riots at the Capitol. He did not die at the riot. He died the next day of a stroke, as has been reported repeatedly. The claims that were made were that he died because of injuries he sustained during the Capitol riot, but that was debunked. That's not the case either. Welcome, everybody, to the show. It's good to be with you, presented by Americans for Prosperity. AmericansForProsperity.org. Free speech, economic liberty. These are the things that I am very, very much into. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because the officers who were there on January 6th were given, was it Congressional Medal of Freedom, Congressional Gold Medals, a thank you, a gesture, hey, we recognize you. And of course, January 6th, what could be more incredibly political for the people who are desperate for its politicization? A riot took place, not an insurrection, a riot took place. I have asked out loud, why weren't these people stopped? Where was the security? And if we were serious about January 6th and looking into it, we would be asking these questions. I do not know if when Republicans take control of the House, if they will look into these things. But if you're somebody who wants to blame it all on Trump and not want to ask the other questions, it would seem to me that you're not actually serious about understanding what took place and how do we prevent it from happening again. I don't mind people who say Trump should have done this or Trump should have that. I have my own takes on that subject, specifically to when the Capitol had people in it. Why wasn't more done to protect the vice president? I've had people say to me, well, if Pence was a traitor. I'm not interested in what people think. I'm interested in what we know. And what we knew at the time was that the vice president was there, the Capitol was under threat, and the president should have moved to protect the vice president because the country comes first. That's my take. I apologize to absolutely no one for it. You might agree or disagree with what Pence did, and he should have done this, or he couldn't have done that. But you can't get me to be someone who says, yeah, just let him suffer. That's just not how I'm going to work nor operate. People have thoughts about all sorts of things regarding January 6th. And clearly, so does the family of Officer Brian Sicknick. It was the mother who's grieving the loss of her son. I saw on this, my son died because of people like Carrie Lake. Now, it's I'm not going to sit here and chastise the woman. She's allowed to feel any way she wants. But she has stated that her son died because of what happened January 6th, and all the reporting said no. So that reporting was there long before she was saying anything publicly. She has injected herself into the conversation. How does one respond to this? Well, I don't think you attack the woman, and I'm bothered by the idea that people would. But you can respectfully say, here's the reporting that was given to us. If you have something else, we'll listen to it. But his stroke took place the day after, and the reports have said that it had nothing to do with what happened on January 6th, although he was there on January 6th. It's an okay thing to say, to push back on a falsehood and correct it without going after somebody personally. It is the going after personally that's going to get people in so much tremendous trouble. But I get it to the extent that somebody wants to push back. If they're going to engage politically and believe that they're protected because they're in grief, well, people are going to take that as they're utilizing the death of their son to move their political agenda. And that's taken as, well, obscene. Because, well, one could argue it is obscene. I would argue it is obscene. But there's still a way you go about these things. And people are going to get this wrong. I'm going to let this family grieve. But I'm also going to be somebody who focuses on falsehoods. Now, today's big story was this right here. Brian Sicknick's family brutally snubbed two-faced Republican leaders. That was the Daily Beast. What happened is that the family was going down a line, and there was Chuck Schumer, there was Mitch McConnell, and there was Kevin McCarthy. And they shook Chuck Schumer's hand, and they wouldn't shake the hands of Mitch McConnell. I don't think Kevin McCarthy put his hand out. This is the brother of Brian Sicknick, Officer Brian Sicknick, delayed officer. This is Ken Sicknick, talking about January 6th and integrity.
They came out right away and condemned what happened on January 6th. And whatever hold that Trump has on them, they've backstepped, they've danced. They won't admit to wrongdoing, not necessarily them themselves, but of Trump, of the rioters. I mean, people like Louis Gohmert, who presented an American flag that was flown over the Capitol to a January 6th rioter and told them they were a patriot. It's disgusting. It takes away everything my brother's done. It takes away the heroism my brother showed. You know.
I'm not about to tell Brian Sicknick's brother how to feel. I would let him know that I don't think that an action by Representative Louis Gohmert takes away the life of your brother. I don't think that's true. And I don't think, for your sake, sir, you should live that way, thinking that. I think that's an awful way to think. But it was Mitch McConnell, for everything you want to say about Senator Mitch McConnell, who immediately said January 6th was wrong and put blame on Trump. Why are you snubbing his handshake? If you're upset with Representative Louis Gohmert, you don't have to shake his hand. I don't argue that you have to shake anybody's hand. But it seems that you would be taking it out on the wrong guy. And he was asked about the handshake.
You don't think they deserved a handshake in this context?
No, definitely not. No, because unlike Liz Cheney, they have no idea what integrity is. They can't stand up for what's right and wrong. With them it's party first. Liz gave up her political career to do what was right and try to find the truth. She's the one ray of hope, her and the whole committee, that they can show integrity, that they can show they actually care about the process, about democracy, about everything that goes on. And these guys are, as long as he's got a big R in front of it, we're going to do whatever he does.
I'm not going to tell the man how to grieve, but that simply isn't true. The idea that Liz Cheney showed integrity is not actually what took place. Liz Cheney allowed herself to be part of a committee that wasn't interested in the whole story because her desire to get Trump trumped her desire to do good. That's the reality of the situation. She didn't give up her political career in this way. She decided that Trump was her enemy as opposed to the nation needing guidance. If you took a look at Liz Cheney's voting record, you loved Liz Cheney's voting record. You loved Liz Cheney as a conservative. And then she decided this was the top subject more than anything else. And she lost her leadership position in the House because she was no longer interested in what the position did. She was not interested in whipping votes. She wasn't interested in getting people together. She was interested in this. And I argue that it would have been very simple for her to have done two things at the same time. You thought Trump was wrong. You could have said so day in and day out and still been someone who doesn't side with a committee that isn't interested in the totality of what happened, was only interested in the political retribution of what it could bring. Which again brings us back to what is it that Kevin McCarthy is going to do, whether or not Kevin McCarthy, if he should be the Speaker of the House, whether or not they're going to bring about more looking into January 6th and give a full picture of security, for example. I don't mind that someone doesn't like what Trump did or thinks that Trump went too far. You're more than entitled to that position and opinion. Now you got to be able to back it up as far as I see it. A riot happened, not an insurrection. That's always been my take. But Liz Cheney, January 6th, the committee, that's integrity? No. When they wouldn't allow Republicans on the committee, like, for example, it was Congressman Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Banks, what that committee said is that we're not about integrity to discover everything that went wrong, things that could have been different, things that we, members of Congress, even if they're Democrats, could have done better. They said, we are making this a political witch hunt. And Liz Cheney said, I'm in, because going after Trump was more important than anything else. So if we want to talk about giving up career, well, maybe Liz Cheney did give up her career, but she didn't give up her career to find out the total answer, to get all the information. She gave up her career to be in a witch hunt, to go after somebody. She engaged in retribution, not in rational conversation. Now, is it wrong to say that to Brian Sicknick's brother? No, I believe that's a disagreement in what took place. And I'm not going to tell the man not to be angry, nor am I going to tell him not to shake anybody's hand. Don't shake their hand. It's totally up to you. But when you see a falsehood, when you see a narrative building, you do need to push back on it. It's just a question of how. And the answer is respectfully. Because someone's going to, it was going to be my original headline, don't take the bait. Someone's going to take the bait. We saw this during the, who was it? Sahel Khan loses his son on the battlefield and pulls out the Constitution. Do you know what this is, Donald Trump? This is 2016. What are you going to do? Go after a Gold Star family? Well, no, not going after anybody. But I can have a conversation about the idea that the Democratic Party was willing to put this man up on TV again and again and again because he could attack Trump and nothing could happen back. That's ugly. That's really ugly, and we should say so. I'm not going to sit idly by and allow new narratives to be formed because the Sicknick family is grieving or any other family is grieving. Because if the narrative is not correct, if the story is not correct, if a falsehood is being told, our job is to respond to it. And it's going to be very, very hard for people to do. It's going to be super hard for people to do this and do this in a rational way. But they don't have an option. They don't have a choice. You got to respond. It's just a question of the way. I'm not going to tell this family not to be in 20 levels of grief. A mother loses her son. I don't ever allow myself to think about losing my eyes. I have no idea how I would react. And I sure as hell wouldn't listen to some guy on radio or in a video series tell me I'm supposed to react. And that's not what I'm doing. But if you tell me that this happened, but I know that that happens, I'm compelled to say so. I cannot allow someone's grief to keep me from engaging a factual conversation, and I won't. It's just about keeping it respectful, guys. That's the way it's got to go. But I'm not going to have respect for people who want to utilize this family for their political advantage, and I'm not going to have respect for the idea that somehow this family can speak anything they choose, and if they're not telling the truth, somebody should say, hey, so you know, that's not true. This is. I think that could be done. I think it has to be done. Kim is asking me a question right here. How about the new narrative going around about Trump wants to rip up the Constitution? Trump made his bed with a very, very poorly thought out statement about changes to the Constitution and dismissing the Constitution. And he uses sometimes the words, someone should be installed, like Carrie Lake should be installed governor of Arizona. We don't install people. It's not how it works. That's on him. He didn't say rip up the Constitution. On that much, we agree. But he brought this on himself, and he didn't have to. If you've caught some of my previous videos, I hate unforced errors more than anything in the world. And Trump is the king of unforced errors. And he hurt himself here. He hurt himself with this statement. If you say, hey, we need to work on a constitutional amendment that does X, Y, and Z regarding elections, well, that would be process. That would be support of the Constitution. Now, on the other side of this, I don't allow the left to talk to me about the Constitution. No. They want to do away with the Second Amendment. They don't care about the Constitution. They want to subvert free speech. They don't care about the Constitution. Abortion isn't in the Constitution, but somehow Roe v. Wade was a violation of the Constitution. Nah, they don't get to talk to me about the Constitution at all and in any way. They don't. Democrats are not playing by our laws. Well, are we talking about election laws? Let's go over it. We may say that ballot harvesting and ballot curing and early voting is all wrong. It's dangerous. It leads to the opportunity for fraud. It is a disaster, but it's also lawful. So now what the Republicans have to do is do exactly that. Win those Secretary of State races, win those governor's races, and then change the laws to not allow this ridiculousness. That's the answer. The answer is not they're doing this, it's wrong, how dare they? As Michael Walsh discussed on my show today, the cheat I mean, you want to call it that just for the sake of this conversation, is in these rules. Now you have to go about doing exactly that. Ballot curing, the idea of saying, oh, someone didn't sign their ballot right. Let's go find them and have them sign their ballot. Republicans have to do that. And aggressively. Early voting, do it. And aggressively. Ballot harvesting, do it. And aggressively. I don't like the stuff at all. But if it's lawful in places like Nevada, for example, you have to go do it. You have to fight the way they fight. And if you ain't willing to fight, you're going to be someone screaming about cheat this and cheat that and stolen this. I'm not listening to that. I'm talking about fighting because that's it. It's the only option we have. It is the only option. Now, I guess somebody can argue some other options, but I'm not about to get into that here. I'm not interested in those options whatsoever. And thank you very much. Fight the way they fight. Stop telling me about how intellectual you are and go out there and start ballot harvesting. Go out there and make sure everybody's voting. Drive 150 people to the polling place. Get it done. Follow the rules, follow the laws every single way. That's it. That is it. Guys, I got to go. I mean, there's a cigar to be had and there's work to be done. Don't forget to find everything I do at Locals, TonyKatz.locals.com, TonyKatz.locals.com. Appreciate you being there. It's free. And then, of course, if you want to become a supporter, I'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. And my thanks to the good people at Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org. Economic liberty, free speech. These are my people. And I don't agree with them about everything. I don't. We've got a big border conversation, AFP and I, coming up. But they are the free speech people. And man, I'm totally in for that. Thrilled that you guys are here. Love seeing all the people over there at Rumble. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe on Rumble. Subscribe on Rumble. Tony Katz, rumble.com/Tony Katz. Subscribe if you would. There you go. There's your reminder right there. Guys, I got to run. I will catch you tomorrow. Take care.